speed, rational problem-solving thoughts, and the ability to experience joy. All of those things are on hold because you need to survive. You are also changing the way your body is functioning. We don't breathe the same way. Our digestion changes. Your heart rate goes up, and eventually that really will lead to a real functional deficit in yourself. And in my work, I get the just constant reminder that it doesn't matter how old you are. You can have a stroke, you can have all sorts of very serious health issues. And as I like to warmly remind my clients, and then you'd still have to do everything you're doing. So think about it that way, that because some people will say, well, if, I die or I'm, oh, that's not true. You just have a lot of other stuff and everything else, and you already have enough. So instead, let's just spend a little bit of time really tuning into this and taking it seriously, because it is serious. And so along the lines of really, the whole idea of a massage, which I personally don't like, and I find it aggravating. They never seem to find exactly where the tension is, and then I think that's a lot of time, money, playing here, not paid. It doesn't work well for me. I don't like that. So the kind of generic advice doesn't work well. You really need to know who you are if you can even begin anywhere with this. And so this is a good visual. You each have this in the slides. I want you to think about this, and you can just keep this information to yourself, but I want you to think about, when it comes to taking care of myself or others, I tend to put myself first, put others first, something more in the middle, and just put an X along that line to help yourself see just kind of where you tend to fall. After that, the second question is, when I need help, the likelihood that I will explicitly ask for it is not a chance, or absolutely, or somewhere in the middle. And by explicitly, I mean saying, I really need some help with this, and not, maybe slamming something around because you're aggravated and something should be helping you, or really openly asking. And then the third one, when help is offered to me, the likelihood that I will accept the offer is thanks, but I couldn't, or thanks, you're the best, somewhere in the middle. And if those X marks are all over the place, that can start to tell you about difficulties you're going to face when you are trying to advocate for yourself, receive self-care. A lot of us are used to being caregivers, and you might do that with some resentment that you never come into play. But a lot of times, that's not even there. It's really like, oh, it doesn't even occur to me that I should want time for myself, that I should want. I mean, maybe when you're exhausted once in a while, but in the everyday, it's not everyone that really feels like this isn't the way I want it to be. There's a natural tendency for a lot of people to take care of whoever needs to be taken care of. But it's important for us to actually think about how we should matter, and think about what you're modeling. If we want our kids to stand up for themselves and recognize that they should matter, it shouldn't always be about pleasing someone else, but is that what we're showing them? And if you don't know how to ask for help, or you are convinced already that you're going to hear no, then again, what are you doing to kind of influence your own situation? And then again, the last one, that if help is offered and then you feel so guilty you just can't accept it, then you really are kind of preventing anyone else from helping you, even if they really want to. So if those things are really skewed, that's an important thing for you personally to really look at and see if you can make some adjustments. think about things a little differently, that I know if I offer to help someone, I really would like to help them. I've learned not to offer when I absolutely can't, so if I offer, I've already factored that in. And it can feel good to know that I've helped someone who needs it. And when I ask, that's challenging, but I've really learned to ask and to really believe, why wouldn't they want to help? Why do I need to already decide, no, they can't because they have so much going on for themselves, why? And if you need motivation, then think about the people who never have trouble asking, but also never have trouble saying, oh, I can't, sorry. And step up to be asking a little bit. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the book, The 5 Love Languages. Anyone? I really like this book. I can use it with couples without it causing a bigger issue, which is nice. And it's actually something we don't all know about ourselves, that just understanding who are you, what's your primary love language, because whatever our love language is the one we're going to use with people in our lives. And if that's a mismatch, whether it's you and your spouse, you and your child, then you're missing one another, and you can also feel really neglected. So you need to understand who you are and what you need so that you can more effectively ask for what you need. Someone who is really an acts of service person might feel as if they are supporting you 100% and they are showing you their love. But if you're a words person, you still feel alone and unsupported and resentful. And so really knowing who you are, what matters to you, is really important. If you're going to actually ask for what you need, then we need to make it count. You don't want to feel as if you really put yourself out there, you ask for the help, you ask for the time, and then it didn't feel like it was worthwhile. And it won't if it really doesn't fit. If you're not familiar with the book, there is a free quiz where you can get your own profile of what are your primary love languages. There are a lot of other resources available on the website. There are love languages for children, and it's all just really, it's interesting. I mean, our kids are not the same. You might be a very physically affectionate person and have one or two kids that are just no hugs, no, and that can feel really hurtful. But if you understand that perhaps they show you in a very different way, then you can receive that and have that feel more rewarding, and that's important. And we also want to respect them. We don't want to put something on them that they are trying to say, hey, I don't like it. I'm not rejecting you, but I don't like that. So that stuff becomes much more important than it might seem, and it's useful in all settings, and easy to learn and free. So I really encourage you to check that out. Then beyond that, your specific likes and dislikes, your strengths and weaknesses, whether or not you have a diagnosis, one that you either formally have been diagnosed with or maybe never have. But all of those things, whether you have any medical conditions, genetic conditions, mental health conditions, all of those things, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, all of those things have to be factored in. I'm much more of an introvert. So when I need time that is really going to help me feel better and recharge, I would prefer to do something on my own. I'd honestly rather clean and have something become organized and feel like, oh, this just chaos has been just removed from at least one place. And I'm like, yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun, right? But for me, it feels good. And my kids make fun of me because I will sit and just stare at a room that's been cleaned and organized. And they're like, just looking at the room again? Yeah. But that works for me. But someone who's an extrovert will so desperately need to get out. And that's a huge difference. Neither one is right or wrong. You'll hear that it's wrong. An introvert often is told, oh, well, you're repressed or that isn't good, you need to get out. It's not that I don't like people, I love people, I work with people every day, but it doesn't refresh me the way sometimes myself will. And so you have to know that for yourself, that if what you need is time with another person, then no activity is going to really create this good self-care feeling, no matter what. I mean, it's not going to serve your need. And Jana, I don't know if I know you wanted to.
I think we might maybe go through it and see what we have time. So we were so social and enjoying each other. Yeah. If we don't have time to do the small groups, it's okay. We'll just see how we're doing.
Okay. And then, I mean, I really do understand the feeling of I don't have time for me, and it feels actually like a burden to be told, well, you need to figure this out. It's like great. I have no resources available to me to make this easy, and I don't even know what I like anymore. So leave me alone, and that's obviously detrimental in the long run. So really then understanding that there are simple things you can do, and you do them every day, and they will actually change the way you feel. That's an important piece for me to buy into anything. And I didn't talk about it explicitly, but have any of you read or heard of 4 Agreements? This for me was truly a game changer. Like, he says it's the key to happiness. If you can follow these 4 agreements, that'll be it. And he's right. But it's not easy. It takes a lot of practice. And I have definitely found that some clients I work with will be offended by some of the suggestions, like take nothing personally. And I find it amusing actually that they find that offensive. But they do. Like that. This is not even possible. It's stupid. Yeah, how can you not be personal? It's good. I'm like, oh, that's interesting that you are reacting that way. Not everyone does. But that one is so critical. And I think especially when you have children who are different in any way, because everything feels personal. It feels critical, judgmental, and isolating. And to really work on that idea of none of this is personal. It isn't about me. It's coming from another person, and I don't know where it's coming from. They ask a question that seems rude or awful, and we want to feel really like I'm going to own that, and I'm going to be wounded by that. I'm going to be whatever it is, but it isn't. It has nothing to do with you. And when you learn to let those things just be about the other person, you really start to feel a lot better. And what are the 4 agreements? They also have cards, because I find that visuals and daily reminders are so critical. We are busy, and there's a lot happening all the time. So without practice, without reminders, we stop doing something, even if it worked really well. And these I thought were really, to me, they're very appealing to look at, and you can review one a day just to help keep you in the practice of just want to ignore the opinions of others. And it seems so easy, but you see when you tune into it that it's not. The other agreements, one is be impeccable with your word. And I mean, the book goes into a lot more where it's like that includes what you say to yourself. It absolutely matters, and I talk about some of these with just different terms. The second one, don't take anything personally. Number 3 is don't make assumptions. And that's another big one that we do. We think we understand something, we get upset, we react to it when maybe there was nothing. And had we asked one question, it would have changed the entire situation. And the 4th one, which was another big aha moment for me, is always do your best, but remember that your best will be dictated by whatever you have going on in that particular moment. left, when we have limited resources, when we aren't feeling well, when we had head lice come through our house twice in a row, or whatever else. You're not running on the same amount of fuel, and you can't expect yourself to function the same way. And all of it really just pushes for some compassion for yourself. The same compassion you often give to other people automatically. And so, going through this list, I really did pull a lot from the 4 agreements. It really is a game changer if you can commit to it. And I'll warn you, if you read the book, there are parts where he talks pretty bold statements about, like, if you really think you have cancer, you'll develop cancer. People react to these things. Again, take it very personally. Just let those things. He's just giving a lot of examples to help it have meaning for you. Oh, sorry. It's Don Miguel Ruiz, R-U-I-Z, and it's the 4 agreements. There's also a 5th agreement now, and also, but like I try to limit how much I bring in, and even the 4 agreements, you can go on Pinterest, put that in, and you're going to get different images that break down the agreements with just enough description that just from that you could use that as your kind of cheat sheet and not even buy the book if buying a book becomes a burden. Because if you're going to feel like, well, now it's this pressure, it's there, I don't have time for it, then don't do it. Just work with the cheat sheet, and if it interests you enough, that's really how I did that. It's like, I've learned not to buy books, I don't read them. And that one was meaningful enough to me that I was willing to buy it. I didn't read the whole thing, I just flipped around, but that's me. I want you to really practice forgiveness. That one, again, is huge. You can start right now, right in this room. Nobody you can tell, no one knows. But it matters when you can really just talk to yourself in a kind and compassionate way. You lost your cool with someone, you just didn't handle something the way you think you should. It happens all the time. And then we beat ourselves up, and what? I mean, it really, it's like, is that what you would tell your child you want them to do? It's like, yeah, you screwed up, so you need to remind yourself all the time how awful you are. That's what? That's going to create depression. That's not going to help anyone. And so honestly saying to yourself, I forgive you. It's hard, but it's really important, and you can start doing that today. And people have a lot of reactions like, well, am I letting myself off the hook? Will I try less hard? Will I? No. It's not going to influence you that way. That's not who you are. Avoid gossip and negative talk about others. That one, again, seems harmless sometimes. I mean, we get together after the kids get on the bus and everyone's talking, but it influences you. If someone's going to say those things about somebody else, it's in your mind that, oh, maybe when I'm not here, it's me that they're talking about, or I feel guilty. I've said things about someone that I like, and now I will face them, and I don't like how I feel, and it's really addictive. It's just kind of, gossip will breed more gossip, and it's just not a positive mindset. So I encourage you to really work on avoiding that. But it isn't the same as venting about your own feelings. And there's a big difference about talking about yourself. And with that, I encourage you to say the word, I feel. If your statements begin with that, then you are much more likely to get a positive response from someone too. When we vent, we're just complaining about, oh, the SEPTA people didn't respond to me, and you get this mixed response too, where it might be, well, but maybe they were just busy, or your email got missed, and that's not what you were looking for. And so in any situation, whatever we're talking about, if you start with I feel, it really does just find someone to be more in tune with you and your feelings, and the response is much more likely to be one that feels good to you. We already talked about not taking anything personally, and this is another one that hopefully will really become a little pebble in your shoe. Oh, this is my bedtime alarm, not mine, but which, you know, removing yourself from situations is lovely. And so I have forever had the bedtime alarm. Oh, it's not me. I don't control it. It's the bedtime alarm. Because when the time change had occurred one year, my younger son had no ability to handle that it was bedtime. It was light out, and I was like, I can't do this every day. Like, I know, but it's still. And so the bedtime alarm was born, and it worked. And they still will, oh, bedtime alarm already? And, you know, they've adjusted it for themselves. Like, it just actually means we need to start getting ready for bed. I'm like, that's fine. As long as it isn't me having to be the bad guy, it just removes me just enough. So things like that can be really useful. But, okay, so I'm hoping to put a little pebble in your shoe, make this just a little uncomfortable. When you take something personally, you will always find that it is a reflection of you. There is something personal for you. It is not actually personal. Whoever said it has their own thoughts and feelings and meaning, but the things that don't matter to you will just roll off. They can be rude, they can be wrong, it doesn't matter, it just rolls off. It's only when you personally relate to it or have judged yourself in the same way or whatever it is that it will upset you. So in those moments, it's such a great opportunity to really think about why. And you won't always know, but reflect on it, because you will typically come around to that where we are often very judgmental of others for our own weaknesses. I mean, those are the things we pick at in ourselves, and we will focus on other people in the same way. So just tune into all of that, because I have moved into number 5, which is don't judge. That really the judgments we pass have everything to do with us. And if you want more motivation to not do that, you need to think there are people like me out there who know you just revealed a lot about you. And I love listening to people's complaints and he this and he that. And I'm like, oh, it's a lot of good information about you and nobody else. So be aware of that. The things that hurt your feelings or the things that irritate you about someone else, they are meaningful for you. And when you can pinpoint that and work on it, it stops being something that is so upsetting. It often involves the need to really forgive yourself for whatever that is. And just wonder more that if we push ourselves not to make assumptions and we then take it further and just wonder that, you're already late for work, you're waiting in your car, and someone is in the crosswalk and they are going so slow. And you just, it's like so rude. And then it's like, or maybe they threw their back out as I have done, and they're like, I'm hurting, but every step hurts. Or they have an infant that had them up all night and they're so tired and miserable, but they're dragging themselves to work. Or maybe they're just coming back from a chemo treatment. And by that point, I'm like, yeah, I don't know what it is, but I'd like to know that I wasn't nasty to that person. And if they were just being self-absorbed, well, okay, I can let that be. But the more you push yourself to really do that, and it's like, how many times have you had just a day where you could barely get out the door without crying, but you make it through, and then someone is like, wow, it wouldn't kill you to smile. And you think, you don't even know. And so think about that for others. Just offer that much kindness and compassion for other people. If they're undeserving, well, it doesn't hurt much. I mean, maybe they need to soften. But to know that I would have judged someone who was feeling like they were just barely holding themselves together feels so bad that pushing myself to create that awareness all the time just made it so much easier. It's always, and that's actually something I get teased about, I mean lovingly at home, but that it is, I always say, well, and they're like, maybe it, and I'm like, that's right. There are a lot of possibilities. Come up with 3. Get in the habit of doing that, and you'll see. You find you're less irritated. You are just happier and more kind. Speak up for yourself. Make sure you ask for what you need. If we haven't outright said, I could use help with this, then it's like, well, then you have to own that you didn't ask. You don't get to be upset now. You don't. And we would tell our kids that. We definitely let them know, like, I'm not a mind reader, so I would have been happy to help you. You didn't ask. But we do that stuff all the time. And it's like, well, you should see, though. You should see that I need this, or I've asked you in the past to do this. You're just setting yourself up to be upset. Just ask. Allow someone to say no. And it's different too. It's really different. People learn quickly, like, oh, he or she's gonna let me get away with this. Oh, I will not see it. I'm not gonna see if the garbage has to be taken out. I will not see, oh, she's in a bad mood. But I will just not see any of it, and I'm gonna get away with it. If we shift that, where we just become like, I'm just gonna ask for everything I need. Just gonna assume, of course you wanna help me. It's very different for someone to have to say, no, I don't feel like helping to take care of the house. I don't care that you had a bad day. I don't want to listen to you. Most people are not going to do that. And so we have to work to get out of that kind of pattern where we've already decided we will not have our needs met, so we don't ask. And then, like it or not, it's like even we'd all get away with whatever we could. It's a just natural tendency that if you know someone will do something for you, there's no consequence, it's pretty easy to fall into that. So speak up and do it with the assumption that, of course, you want to help me. Everyone wants to say yes to my request. If they say no, then you react to the way it was handled. There's a difference between, no, I don't care what you're going through, and I can't help you today, but how about another offer? And so let that happen. That helps us see who we're dealing with too. Then to turn towards. This concept comes from some of Gottman's work with marriage counseling, but it's really important that we turn towards each other instead of away when we are upset about something. And that includes our kids, your partner, your support system, your school. Turn towards where you share the problem. And again, you're kind of expecting that, of course, you want to work with me to resolve this. And when someone doesn't want to work with you, then it's much more obvious that you have a different situation. And usually a lot easier for us to settle in it. And so recognize that when we turn away from, when we isolate ourselves, we make it very hard even for us to then re-enter the system and feel comfortable and confident. Came up with some things that you could possibly do for yourselves at home, and they are easy to do, easy to incorporate, and they make a difference. There are so many other things you can read about. This again becomes know who you are. If you are absolutely not going to do something, then don't put it on your list. Know what matters to you. I do have a gratitude jar that there's always just a pen and little strips of paper, and randomly someone writes something, whatever it is, and you fold it up and put it in the jar, and you read it, and it can, I mean, it's just amazing to me how easily your mood can shift when you read something that one of your kids wrote down, or that you wrote, and brings back a good memory. And one day, I don't know if this says really good things about my parenting or not, but I was not in a good mood. And I often say, focus on the good. That's just standard phrases. Those are also great to just incorporate into your life. It's a good mantra for yourself and for your kids. And anyway, I was not doing a good job of focusing on the good. And my older son took the jar and brought it over to me, and he put it down in front of me. And I was like, oh, all right, I guess that's a clear message. And, but I did, I started reading some and was like, you know, I do adore them. And it's crazy how much joy you can suddenly get just from something like that. And if your kids are small or they're not able to write, they can tell you something that they would like to include, or you can draw pictures. And there are other ways to do this. There are journals people can use, but just the idea of gratitude being a part of every single day really makes a difference. There's always something good. There really is. With as many not so good things that we can find in our day, you will always find something good. Music is a good one. We know that the brain really responds differently to music, and it can really help cool things off when you are ready to just snap. Can't handle any more, and it's a great distraction, and your kids can either join you or walk away from you because they find that annoying or whatever it is. But music really does reach us. So have a playlist together. Know which songs will just snap you out of it. And it's one of those things, when the brain is overwhelmed, we are in fight or flight. You don't have access to all of your frontal lobes. So calming down and really being rational, it's not going to happen. But any of these things to just create, it's like we just need access to the rest of the brain. You need to snap out of fight or flight, and suddenly you have the ability to react differently and handle the way you're responding. And it just kind of repeat that to yourselves. And it's like you can't be in both places. So if you are stressed and overwhelmed, that's where you are. You don't have rational thought. You don't have all of your skills. Create a distraction, and the moment you're out of that place, it's like, okay, they're there. You might need to continue to distract yourself, but you really only get one or the other. And work with that. You can use your senses, which we'll talk about somewhere else later, but if you're really sensitive to smell, that's something. It's like, fine, keep like a mint with you, keep a chapstick that smell it. It triggers them right in a different way, and just gives you just a little bit of a pause that could end up being a game changer. Laugh every day. Find a reason. If you need to, go online and look up comedians. Are you guys familiar with Michael McIntyre? No, he's got some like piece about putting your kid's winter jacket on that just makes me just cry. It's just so relatable. And you watch it with someone who doesn't have kids, and they're like, you don't, because it is, the most just, I had one kid who was like naked every time I would turn around. And be like, wow. And like, yes, that's the struggle you didn't think you were gonna have. And it's, you just need a little levity. So find humor. It's like store these things up, things that you know work for you. Create playlists, create little, if it's visuals from Pinterest, if it's a joke, whatever it is, when you know that spoke to me, save it, use it on your phone, then it's there. It's always accessible, and you just know that's what I need to just help shift out of this place. And let's see, I've sensed the room is starting to get really sleepy, so then I don't want to make you all fall asleep and avoid bedtime. So you have these to look at, so you can review them for yourselves. There are, again, you have to know who you are, but routine, we do love routine. And the thing about your brain is that the more routine something is, the less your brain has to focus on it. And so you're just less strained. I mean, think about driving, that as you learn how to drive, that everything you do in the car is thoughtful. And now it's like, oh, I don't remember that ride, but I'm home, I'm safe. And that's what happens when the brain gets enough practice with something. It just becomes so automatic. You don't have to give it a lot of energy. So think about that. And I do this even with meal planning, that can be such a stress, and it's a mess, and you're at the store, and you just go back. No, I make the same thing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And people are like, that, oh, I'm like, no, you know what? You eat the same foods. I don't care how much you think you're going to create a whole new menu. You don't. You wait too long, and it's like, well, what does everyone want? It's always the same. And so I have a rule of, if you're passionate about a different food this week, let me know. I'm going shopping. I go shopping always on the same day. Everything is laundry, same day of the week. It really just eliminates like needing to think about it. And that's a part of what we need. And if someone wants to change something up, that's fine, we can do it. But it's really rare that anyone has enough interest. So it's like, well, you know what you're getting because it's Monday. So there you go. Lunch is the same unless a request is made. And it works. I mean, it really works. It works for me. I can make their lunches without thinking. I know exactly who needs what and which pockets they go in. I can do without looking. And that's nice. I don't want to have to think about that stuff. So the last one that I'll actually point out to you is number 10. I want you to go to bed reviewing a mental list of everything that you did that day. And I mean everything. Got up, usually it's like, well, let's see, I was up how many times during the night? Somebody had a nightmare and someone needed this, and then I couldn't go to sleep. Okay, and then my alarm went off. And just do that, because it is amazing how much we do. And I needed to know that when I had reached a point of, okay, every night is the same. I go to bed and I'm miserable, I'm mad at myself, I have been short with my kids, I feel like I can't run my practice, I can't run my home, and it's miserable. And I'm trying to go to sleep now. And reminding myself that lack of sleep is terrible for my brain. So I'm reminding myself of dementia, and it's great. I could, sleep for 2 hours before one of my kids wakes me up, so I could do it all over again. And that's still kind of how it goes, except I don't think about any of that. I really go to bed and I'm like, I'm a machine. I'm impressed with me. I cannot believe how much I do in a day. Maybe it's not always the most critical thing. Maybe my choices are not always the best. If they leave me where I regret it, then I say, well, I forgive me. I get why that stuff happens. It's tempting to do something that is less taxing than something else. But tomorrow it'll feel better if I do that one. And I will remember it as soon as I'm awake. So I don't need to remind myself. I don't need to do anything else. I need to appreciate how much I did. And that I end my day every day by reading to my kids. And for a while I didn't. I can't. I've got to finish this. I've got to. And then the same thing just hit me that this will be it. And they will remember that Mommy always had work to do. And I actually love my work. And I thought, and they are already thinking this work stuff is awful. And I don't want them to think that. And so what will happen if I actually say, well, at this hour, I'm done. I know I'm not focused, I'm looking the way all of you are looking at this point, and like, but I'm still at my office, I'm on my computer, I'm like, for what? But there's a lot of anxiety that, well, I'm already behind, and if no. Instead, it was so freeing, and every day to feel like, well, I made a choice to be with them in a positive way. Maybe I yelled at them all the way through the bedtime routine, doesn't matter. Then we all read books together, and if you know the Humphrey books by Betty G. Burney, oh, I love those books, and the kids loved those books. They were just relatable in so many ways, and so they gave us things to talk about. That it didn't matter developmentally where somebody was. I mean, we all enjoyed them, and it was so positive about just being open-minded, accepting, like really incorporated the 4 agreements. No. Humphrey is the classroom hamster, so we learned about every kid in the class through him. And it just generated the most positive discussion. And my kids still ask me if we can just read them again, because we read other book series, and they're like, those are good, but not like Humphrey. And then we revisit why the Humphrey books were so good. Humphrey is the classroom hamster. So I think it's like The World According to Humphrey. It's
The
Betty
Friendship
G.
According to
Burney,
Humphrey.
and there are like 10 of them. And so being able to end knowing, I know that matters to them, and that feels good to me, and I'm not always proud of the way I handle myself with them or the way I manage my stress, but I know at the end of the day that just helps all of us, and that they know I choose them, and it can be 5 minutes. It really doesn't take very long, and then I realize I'm exhausted, and I go to bed instead of trying to do work that wasn't going to be done anyway, and just, huge game changer to actually set those limits and say, yeah, sometimes the more we limit ourselves, the more productive we will be. And I don't remember what else is here, but mindfulness, so this is more what we were talking about, and meditation, which is hard. It's actually hard. Being mindful is just being present. Really training yourself to be present every single day. I walk to work, and every day, doesn't matter how my morning has started, as soon as I'm outside, I don't care what the weather is, I'm like, I love that I walk to work. I had a horrible commute for so many years, and I cannot help myself but be so grateful that I can walk to work. And as soon as I'm walking, I think, and my brother had an accident when he was 21, and he had to have a leg amputated. And I can't help it. I think about that, and I think, and what he wouldn't give to not have the amputation and to not have the pain. And my grandmother, who's 92, says she loved walking. She's now in a wheelchair. And although that might sound kind of depressing, for me, I'm like, those are 2 of my favorite people, and I love all of it, and I can't help it. I just start to tune into everything. Like, birds are chirping a little louder. It's all very, like, out of, Mary Poppins. It sounds probably corny, and a lot of my clients will tell me, I don't buy it. I don't think you really feel that way. Like, I do. I really do. I feel like my life is the most chaotic it's ever been, and I have more peace than I've ever had, because I do appreciate every single one of those things. And that's part of what being mindful is. Meditation is different. It serves a very good purpose, and that one is really going to help us regulate our body, control your heart rate, your blood pressure, and it's a lot harder to do when your mind is very busy, but there are some really good guided meditations that you can try, and I did one recently that I really liked because it seemed at first way too busy, but there were birds chirping loudly and all sorts of other noises, and this guy whose voice I thought was kind of annoying, but he said, every time thoughts come in, because you're not supposed to think, which like, sure, okay. Every time a thought comes in, instead of feeling like, well, I just failed that, or, oh, great, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to, just see the bird. It's coming in, but it's just flying right by. So it's okay. Just let it go right through. And I was like, huh, well, that one really helped me. And all the noise in the background, the chaos almost made it better. I mean, it's very directive. And then said, I'm going to start with positive self-affirmations. And said things that seemed very lame. And after a few of them, it was like, okay, it's not so bad. It's just decent. And if you want proof the meditation is helpful, try some biofeedback, because that's the stuff that tells us whether or not we're really getting to a place of calm by breathing. And it's a lot harder than it sounds. I have a device that I will get very aggravated with because it claims I'm still very wound up when I have been breathing for a few minutes and don't understand. But it does, it takes a lot more time than you would think to really center yourself. And so sometimes the actual feedback, biofeedback, can be a visual device. One I have is a hand sensor, and it gives you this high-pitched screech that you need to breathe through until that noise quiets. And you get better and better at it, but it will take a lot more time than you would think. So, okay, I feel like you all need to stand up and have more food, consistency, and when you get outside help. I feel like you probably already all know that. Maybe you need permission to get outside help, but it's there, and I know financially it's not always an easy thing to do. And so that's where it becomes important to really think about what are you losing out on if you don't do something, or even therapy. You can go to therapy where you talk with therapists and say, I don't have the money for this, and how can we do this so that I can handle it, where you can go in one time a month. If you're committed to it, you can make that work. So just talk to people about what you need, and make sure you select someone who really seems to get you, because it's for you. So expert or not, it needs to feel good, and that's a critical part of it. So you guys have questions? Is there, I've overwhelmed you, are you all in fight or flight?
Dr. Noel, what did you mean by find a friend who's a body double?
So the concept of body double is that when we need to get something done, just having someone else there for whatever reason just stimulates someone enough that they can often do something they were avoiding. And they don't even need to help. It can be like, I really need to clean out my closet, and so you have someone come and they can help if you're like, okay, I just need you to like take the pile of things and remove them immediately, and whatever. But that, yeah, even if it's just having a friend that it's the same idea of like doing homework together, where for some reason it's like it doesn't feel quite as bad when someone else is suffering with you, and that it does work. It really works with all sorts of different things that we are trying to accomplish, and it's free, and then you return the favor. Well,
Any questions?
It's hard to articulate this, but we, from time to time, are living a life that has many crises, whether it's a medical crisis or behavioral or school or whatever. And they're unexpected, and you're sort of in the middle of your routine, which you love, and find comfort in. But then you have a disruptor, and everything has to be put on pause and sort of crisis mode. And it can be very hard to sort of get back to comfortable routine and keep perspective that it's not going to be like this every day for the rest of my life.
right.
Like this sort of, when you look at, what's depression, it's like, it's pervasive, it's persistent, it's forever. to
Right.
get out of, do you have any tips on how to kind of, when your life has a lot of these sort of unexpected,
Yeah.
crises, getting that, triggering to get yourself back into that, okay, it's okay now, but today was great.
Yeah. And
Tomorrow
I
may
think,
suck, but today was great.
Right.
Do you have tips on how to kind of keep that perspective of, oh, and 20 years from now, it might be great.
right. Well,
As
one,
opposed to forever.
it really is stop looking down the road. Stop. Because none of us know. We really don't. And so you can have children who never have crisis who suddenly are gone. And we don't control that. It's awful, it's ugly, but it's like, you don't know. It could be amazing, it could be hideous. You don't know, you won't know until it's there. Stop looking there. Look here. Look here and fill it with praise. And it's like, okay, this is awful. It's really miserable. And give yourself that. You can't pretend things aren't awful when they're awful. But then praise yourself for being strong enough that somehow you still do it. All of you do it. And say those things where it's like, well, we don't like it. We might not do it gracefully, but we do it. We're here. We get it through. And just keep doing those things. Like, get scared about the future and just stop and say, it could be anything, and it could be so great. We don't know, so we're not going to worry about it. Just going to really embrace everything that we have right now. And, it's like really conjure up like your worst case scenario. How people think, I don't know what I would do. I don't know. And it's like, well, you just would. That's it. That's what we all do. And you've probably proven that over and over and over already. And you should embrace that and really go, yeah, I'm tough. Other people would crumble under what I face. And I still smile and can be pleasant to people. That's awesome. I like that. And keep doing that because it's all real. It's like, wow, I bet you when you reset, you still make yourself talk about the positives and try to set a good attitude and tone, and it's like, that's a choice. You make that choice. You don't have to. Be proud of those things. And then in the moments where you do just really need to say, I hate all of this, it's awful, and I have severe anxiety when I think about what will be, then that's when you go to therapy. Because that is a place where you can just put all of that out there without monitoring anything for anyone else and get some feedback that can be helpful for you and just help you keep going and help you keep seeing all the strength instead of all of the challenges. Because it's like we can just put ourselves in the fetal position by thinking even for a little bit about the scary things that could be. And I know it's like much more realistically could be than a lot of people have to face. But for what? Again, it's like this is where the gratitude jar or a picture. There's a picture of both my kids with, like, for them, happiness is definitely a big open mouth smile. And all I need to do is look at those smiles. And I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, it's not all better, it's not all gone. But I am grateful for what I have and for those moments and those smiles. And it takes practice. But the more you do it, I mean, your brain literally becomes stuck on one track. So it's either going to be the negative, anxious one, or it's going to be the positive one. You become the annoying person. It's always, but, and it's like, good, be that person. We need more of that. And it is hard. And then, do the things you're doing. Find people who can relate. And if you're spending time with anyone who can't, stop. Because it really, we like to tell ourselves, like, well, but, they don't know because they don't, no. There are people who can relate and really show empathy when they have no idea what it would be like. So if there's someone in your life who really seems to always miss, then remove them. Because you need validation. We need to feel like real, and it doesn't need to be proven or challenged, it just is. I'm sorry, I focus so much on you, but you're awesome, I can tell, and you're doing a great job.
It's a great question.
I've got one.
Mhm.
Can you address the issue, the stress of parenting two different children, say one difficult and one disabled, and not feeling like you're living Sophie's choice?
And wait, when you say Sophie's Choice, because you,
Meeting the needs of both at the same time, not gonna happen a lot of time. Sometimes it's okay,
Right.
sometimes it's not.
and do you feel like,
Feel like not parenting either of them well, just, you know,
okay, so
barely getting by, and
both end up being,
so do you attend to the physical needs of the disabled one or the emotional needs of the non-disabled?
Yes and yes.
that's right. You know, I mean, part of it is tending to your emotional needs and using that as you work with both of them. Because that's real. And it's like, hey, I'm a person too. And you know what? It stinks to say no to you. And you hear no a lot because these needs seem to matter more. And they don't matter more, but they have to be handled. It's not optional. So I'm stuck. And I don't want to be stuck. You're both so important. And it's just hard. And you just talk to them and talk about what you need, and because it isn't fun. I mean, none of us choose to focus on something and always tell them like, "Oh, you're fine, you're fine." They're not fine, you know that, but you are one person, and they have to understand that too, and they can, but they want to hear you matter. You still matter. I may say no more than I wish, but no every single time. I wish it was always a yes. And, you know, it's like at the end of the day, we just want to know that our parents love us. And I'm pretty sure, we've been doing therapy with adults for almost 20 years now. That's still the theme. I just needed to be loved, just as I was. And it's not perfect, it's not pretty to look at, but it's real. When you know that, that gives you what you need. And so that's what I would do. And any kid who does talk to us about not meeting their needs has a parent that has already pretty much established some unconditional love because they are brave enough and know that it is acceptable to be able to talk to you like that. And that doesn't happen without unconditional love. Good. You guys really are awesome, I can tell, and I hope that you tell yourselves that a lot. And if you don't, or if you can't, if looking in the mirror and saying, I'm really amazing, and I'm doing what I can, if that makes you cry, that's a reason to go to therapy, or at least make you go away. We should be able to say that. We should be able to say, I do like me. I'm not perfect, but I like who I am. I ultimately like the big decisions I make, and I have things I need to work on, but I'm okay. If you can't say that, then no one else will. Now you all look like you really need some sleep, so go ahead and get some sleep. I do have cards and I have cards up here if anyone would like, and some rack cards for services for adults and for kids. And I am a huge advocate of testing for adults. If you think you have an undiagnosed learning disorder, ADHD, is absolutely still worth knowing. Oh. That's right. I didn't remember that. Oh my God. Okay, we're going to do this quick because I know we are all tired, but let's, one more round of applause for Dr. Gomez.
Steve as a winner because it's awesome donors. Yeah, I know, I would. Okay, so while I'm kind of organizing this for a second, please feel free to grab some more food, even if you're taking it to your family at home, your spouse, your babysitter who is watching your kids, so you could come here. We have a lot over there, so that cannot all come back to my house, so please take it. And then we'll get started with this in just a second.
Did you like it? Yeah.